these private company issues can move millions of votes. It is a very serious thing. And Ted Cruz did a little bit of work on this in a Senate committee hearing, talking to Robert Epstein. We've had him on the show before. He's a Harvard professor. He's a guy who supported Hillary Clinton. He is not a Trump supporter at all, but his case is, look, big tech is able to manipulate votes, and they could change elections in the favor of different candidates with no paper trail. Listen to some of this exchange from earlier this week.
And in 2020, you can bet that all of these companies are going to go all out. And the methods that they're using are invisible. They're subliminal. They're more powerful than most any effects I've ever seen in the behavioral sciences. And I've been in the behavioral sciences for almost 40 years.
You know, our Democratic colleagues on this committee often talk about what they view as the pernicious effect of big money and big corporate dollars. What you are testifying to is that a handful of Silicon Valley billionaires and giant corporations are able to spend millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars collectively, massively influencing the results of elections. And there's no accountability. You said, we don't know. We have no way of knowing if Google or Facebook or Twitter sends it to Democrats or Republicans, or how they bias it, because it's a black box with no transparency or accountability whatsoever. I mean, am I understanding you correctly?
Senator, with respect, I must correct you.
Please.
If Mark Zuckerberg chooses to send out a go vote reminder just to Democrats on Election Day, that doesn't cost him a dime.
Fair enough. Do you happen to know who the Hillary Clinton campaign's #1 financial supporter was in the year 2016?
I think I do, but please remind me.
The #1 financial supporter of the Hillary Clinton campaign in the 2016 election was the parent company of Google, Alphabet, who was our first witness. They were her #1 financial donor, and your testimony is, through their deceptive search methods, they moved 2.6 million votes in her direction. I would think anybody, whether or not you favor one candidate or another, should be deeply dismayed about a handful of Silicon Valley billionaires having that much power over our elections to silently and deceptively shift vote outcomes.
Again, with respect, I must correct you. The 2.6 million is a rock bottom minimum. The range is between 2.6 and 10.4 million, depending on how aggressively they used the techniques that I've been studying now for 6.5 years.
Wow.
That's breathtaking.
Yeah, it is.
And this guy, again, is a Clinton supporter. He is not a conservative.
Oh, the guy testifying was a Clinton supporter?
A Clinton supporter. He voted for Hillary. And he said at the beginning, Cruz's first question was like, hey, so would you describe yourself as a conservative Republican? And he just laughed. He goes, no. He's no fan of Republicans as far as policy goes.
Okay, none of this is a problem.
No.
But the Russian deal.
The Russian deal was a big deal because they put ads on and they they retweeted people a bunch of times with Russian bots. When you listen to this testimony and what he's told us on the show as well, I think Glenn did a podcast with this guy. I think he did. We've definitely had extended interviews with him, so it's worth going back and listening to. But he describes the methods, Pat. And first of all, he says, if you take a 50-50 issue, let's say abortion or whatever, that one's probably too core of an issue, but a big issue, but it's a 50-50 split. By reordering the search results, not by changing them, but just by reordering them, his research shows you can turn it from a 50-50 issue to a 90-10 issue.
Wow.
90-10. Because again, the amount of people who have principles on an issue, who have really thought it all through and are, you know what, I am rock solid in this belief, it's minimal in this country. So they can switch people like that. He said they did research where they monitored people's individual computers and what they are seeing. And I think a lot of people, and this is the way the internet was at the beginning, have the impression that like you type something in, that's the #1 search result. So if I type it in, it's the #1 search result. When you type it in, you see the same #1 search result. Well, that's not true anymore. So like if I were to right now show you my homepage on yahoo.com, what it would tell you is apparently all of America loves the Philadelphia Eagles because every other story is a Philadelphia Eagles story because that is the most likely story for me to click on when I happen to go to yahoo.com, right?
Yep.
Or whatever site it is. It's all customized for me. So there's no way to be able to monitor what they're doing with individual people. So Epstein's point is they can determine, because of what you're doing on the internet and all the data that they have on you, whether you're going to be likely to vote for, let's say, Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump. And then his extreme example is they could put a get out and vote alert to just one side, just the Bernie Sanders people, just the Elizabeth Warren people, and not send it to the Trump people.
And it is possible, he said, that in the last election, up to 10 million people were influenced.
Yeah, that's what his research said, because he actually was monitoring computers and seeing that.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is really incredible. And I don't know. It's like if you think of it with the Russian bot situation, right? What were they able to do? Well, afterwards, they were able to investigate. They were able to look back at all the public Twitter posts, all the ads that were placed, and piece together a narrative of what Russia did actually legitimately really try to do. And they were really trying to do this. They went after websites. The whole Russian hoax thing has more to do with whether it affects Donald Trump, not whether they actually tried to manipulate the election. They did. And so you look at that, and they were able to trace that back. It was a difficult process, but they were able to do it. If Google did something similar, they wouldn't be able to because it only appeared on your computer.
Plus, Google was far more successful than the Russians were at manipulating people.
Yeah, and obviously they're much better at this overall. I mean, they're the best.